A very good day to you out there, and welcome to perhaps the last of the series of this project. In the past two series, we have spoken widely and extensively about the is, and that is to say the relationship between that granular component of the robos and the shekiris. In this particular series, aligning with our belief that it is not sufficient to just talk about the problems, but to also try and identify some solutions which can be mutually benefiting to the two parties. And that is the core of this presentation. We must bear in mind that the relationship between the two parties is such that one, on the one hand, is a major ethnic group within the state controlling numerous local government council areas, while the other is a relatively smaller ethnic group within the state controlling fewer local government council areas. But when you take a look at section 14 of the Constitution, one of the things that the founding fathers of this great nation have done is to try and ensure that in the distribution of benefits, entitlements, in the exercise of rights, that no ethnic group, merely because of its size, is shortchanged. And that is why when you look at those provisions, they talk about one ethnic group predominating the others within the nation and indeed within the state. And so the critical question is, how can the relationship between the Ishekiris and the Urobos be as good as possible? Now, I would want to evoke the quotation by Jesus Christ in the Bible when he was asked, what is the greatest commandment of the 10? He said, and I quote, "Love the God your Lord with all your heart, and above all, love your neighbor as yourself." End of quote. And when you take a look at the objectives, the goals, the motto of most of these secular organizations like Rotary Club, you see the four-way test. If you look at JCs, you see such things as the brotherhood of man transcends the sovereignty of nation. In all this, one can extract to provide a way forward for the relationship between the Ishekiris and the Urobos. We have been able to establish that there are several Ishekiri communities outside the three Warri local government council areas, and within the Delta Central Senatorial District, you have Ishekiri communities in Saple, in Okpe, in Uwe, and in several other places. So rather than have a situation where, as we have currently, you want to exterminate these communities simply because you do not want them to register their interests, you don't want them to exercise their rights, you simply want to erase them. In an era where we practice the rule of law, let us remember that before civil society, what John Locke called the Hobbesian state was what was in place. A state where there was no law, where might was right, where life was short, brutish, and nasty. But saturated with that state, we decided that we wanted a civil society, and we decided to enter into a social contract in which we surrendered our rights to a sovereign called the state in exchange for the protection of our lives and property. At this stage, we cannot begin acquiring each other's property by the means of conquest, which is still ongoing in some part of the state because of the size of some ethnic group in comparison with that of the others. And so, for instance, when at a time the Delta State government decided to create community development centers, why create those community development centers only in the three Warri local government council areas? What about other council areas where the Shekiris are? So, for instance, if we say that the Shekiris are traditionally the owner of Warri, as the case is, and there are settlers, people who have come here, and these people have other local government areas where you have Shekiris. They should treat the Shekiris over there the way they want to be treated here. The last time I recall that the Shekiris in Saple needed to organize a festival, it resulted in a police case. In fact, the Okpes insisted that they must seek a formal permission from the king. They must make an application for permission to do so. Now, if you were told to do so in Warri, would it be something that is palatable to you? The answer is no. So, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. At a point when the CDCs were being created, why were they not created for the Shekiris in Saple? Why were they not created for the Shekiris in Okpe? Why were they not created for the Shekiris in Uwe? So some of all these things are things that engender distrust, that create and aggravate hostility between neighbors. And I, as a person, I believe that if whatever that anybody is asking for in Warri South Local Government Council area, the person is prepared to give a commensurate quantum of that to the Shekiri in his local government council area, I see no problem with that. If, for instance, you say there should be rotation of chairmanship in Warri, then there should be rotation of chairmanship in Uwe, in Saple, and in Okpe. If you look at one of the ways in which the Shekiris have been described over the years, they are civilized people with all due respect. They are people who believe in the rule of law. They are people whose strength lies in court judgment. And that is how they are described. And so, the Shekiris continue to repose confidence in the rule of law in a state where the rule of law is out of currency. It's no longer in currency. And so, that, in my opinion, is the greatest problem that the Shekiris have. And that is unfortunate, because in a modern world, we ought to be gravitating more and more away from the state of nature than gravitating towards it. And so, I do think that if you look at what most Shekiris in public service, what most Shekiri politicians do, if we take an example, the member representing Warri Federal Constituency in the National Assembly, the House of Reps, if you look at his project list, you will discover that they are so spread and they touch communities that are of Urobo ethnic extraction in Warri area. So why can't the member representing a corresponding constituency where Shekiris are, why can't they enjoy the same privileges and benefits which the Urobo communities in Warri enjoy? Instead, what we hear is an design program to exterminate those people. A case in point is the case of the Bukurusu people, who have been chased away from their land. So we have a situation where some people who are here want to be accommodated, at the same time chasing those in their own land away. We must have a change of mind in all this. And for me, the best way to go about this is the wordings of civilization, the act of living peacefully together in a large group. So, what you take from me, be prepared to give to my brother in your own area. Why? Why is it that when we take a look at the project list of the Deputy Senate President, we cannot pinpoint projects cited in the Shekiri communities in Delta Central Senatorial District, as opposed to what you find when you get to Thomas Oritomi's own constituency? Now, it may be possible to find situations where people have grown over the years and grown so used to more refined way of life and are now living in a very crude environment, which will gradually teach them, if the environment does not change, to adopt cruelty, which is not the direction to go. If you take a look again at the way and manner in which the communities in Delta Central Senatorial District are treated, you will discover that in the consideration of appointments and positions, they are completely disregarded. At the recent public hearing in Asaba, many of the communities came out to say that they are completely neglected. No jetties, no projects whatsoever in these areas. Now, if we must make meaningful progress, if we must live as a people in one state, as our symbol depicts the big heart, we must necessarily exhibit big heart. What we do to others in our home, we should expect it to be done to us in their home. Thank you very much.